show you. I want you to do me a favor. I want you to tell all your friends about me.
What are you?
What could be greater than a king?
A hero.
The hell are you supposed to be?
I'm vengeance.
Underneath the bridge,
Who?
Topper sprung a leak, and the animals I've trapped
Haven't a clue.
all become my pet.
Let's play a game. Just me and you. Any of this mean anything to you?
Welcome to DC Films Unlimited, back again, and we had a big film drop this last weekend. What's up, man? You saw the Batman, right?
3 times now.
Yeah, me too. I'm going for my 4th this week. Yeah, that's right.
Oh, I'm not finished though. I'll probably see it another at least 3 times, probably.
Yeah, that's why I'm feeling it too. I'm gonna see it as many times.
Spoilers for how good it is. Spoilers for how good the movie is, by the way.
Yeah, we're gonna try to avoid most spoilers right now. We're gonna dedicate a whole podcast to just talking about everything about the movie, like all the Easter eggs and the themes of the movie and stuff like that. But just an absolutely smash hit this opening weekend. It actually surpassed all expectations. It was actually projected to do 130 million domestic, and it had 134 million by the end of Sunday. It actually did better than they thought it was going to do on Sunday.
I think like Warner Brothers. I think I saw Forbes put out that they were looking for around 90 million. I know they lowball the expectations, so because they know it probably will do better. But for a movie, for them to be expecting 90 million to come in at 134 million,
pretty incredible. I know it's wild because the Saturday to Sunday drop was only 21%, like barely any drop at all. And the next weekend's is going to be the real tell. I don't think it's going to have a 70% drop like some other DC movies have had. This is going to stick around. It's going to have legs at least until it gets to HBO Max, and it's probably going to taper off completely when it gets to HBO Max. But
yeah, we've got another 4 or 5 weeks before then, so it's got plenty of time with no competition against it.
Absolutely,
the word of mouth in this movie. I don't know about yourself, Alex, but here in the UK, well, mostly in Scotland, everybody's talking about this movie. Like everybody, and I'm talking about people that you wouldn't think would go to see a comic book movie are talking about this movie. And that kind of says a lot about how good The Batman is by Matt Reeves.
Yeah, I mean, I thought the movie was going to be good, but I couldn't have expected it was going to be like this fucking good, like this comic accurate.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I'm saying? This true to Batman. I mean, this is the most Batman we ever got in a movie to me. Like, there's been great Batman movies before, but like they always were a little scared to go full Batman. This one was not. It was not at all. And people are liking it. Most of the crowd reaction's good. It has an A- cinema score, which is real good. So like majority of people walking out are loving it, and they're going to be spreading that to other people. Word of mouth is going to spread a lot. So I don't expect a big drop its second weekend. I expect something like maybe like a 45 to 50% drop, maybe, if that.
As well as that, like I mean, next week, I think it's next week, it opens in Japan and China, and not a lot of North American movies have been able to open in China. But see, what seems to be Marvel now aren't opening in China anymore, but it seems to be WB are still getting the releases in China. So that's going to be a big boost to this movie. Before the movie came out, I wasn't sure just because some of the themes that I'd heard, etc. Here in the UK, it got a 15 rating in the cinema, so that kind of takes away a lot of the younger children. So I was a bit worried about legs, etc. But I think the fact it's opening in China, the fact that the good word of mouth, I think this movie, I don't want to really give predictions, but I think it's going to do really, really well.
Yeah, I think it was going to do really well, regardless of China and whatnot. But yeah, with China, to get to that $1 billion mark is a lot easier now. I think the projections after this first weekend is now 900 million. Like they're like, oh, it should hit that easy. So very exciting times. DC been killing it. Nothing but like bangers, back to back. And then you drop this huge Batman film. Now, I don't know if the other DC films, this year can match Batman. Like, I don't know if it's going to get to this level because this film is just on a different level entirely. Like, as far as actual filmmaking quality goes, right?
Yeah.
A completely different atmosphere here. Like, what were your impressions of the movie when you first saw it?
Just initially, I first walked into the theatre. I think I'd heard before I went in that it was very much like Joker, 2019's Joker. And I wasn't sure how I felt about that, but, because Joker, I can appreciate it's a great movie, but it's not for me in the sense of as a Batman fan, it doesn't feel, it's a different conversation altogether, but I just wasn't sure that I would like that aesthetic, even though I can appreciate it's a great movie. But once, obviously the movie starts, it comes up, Warner Media, the Batman, I was like, okay, I can see where the Joker, because that's kind of how Joker started as well.
The big letters, yeah.
And then it starts off, I can't remember that, Oh Maria, the opera tune that comes on, and then just on that first shot, you see through the binoculars, you knew straight away that you were in for something special. You knew this wasn't going to be BVS, or it wasn't going to be any other comic book movie we've seen in the last 5-6 years. This is going to be something special.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, from the opening shots of the movie, it's had a different vibe entirely. This is very Zodiac with the way Riddler kills the guy at the beginning. I just love the way it was done, and there was some people, like reviewers, saying the movie was, censored, saying like, oh, all the X-rated stuff was censored. But like Riddler pounding that dude's head at the beginning seemed pretty adult. It seemed pretty graphic, like without showing too much blood,
I think the movie, without showing, like, as you say, too much blood, I think that even just the atmosphere going on, from that initial scene there where we see the binoculars, we think it's Batman, but then the movie, obviously it moves into the house, and then it goes to black, the TV gets turned off, and then we see Riddler appear behind Mayor Coulson's back. I think that moment, even then, you just feel the atmosphere. This is serious. This isn't just a guy that's going to be throwing question marks around and asking you stupid riddles. This is a serious, sadistic psychopath.
Yeah, it scared me when I first saw it. Honestly, it was a very horror movie. When you first see him pop up, such a good introduction to Riddler. And it is adaptation, so they do take liberties with some of the characters, but I'm happy with everything they did with Riddler. I like all these changes they made with him.
I think when we were speaking in the last podcast there, like we were talking about like some changes and aesthetic things, and I said that I wasn't sure initially when I saw, Robert Pattinson's suit. I wasn't sure when they were calling Penguin Oz. I wasn't sure when I saw Catwoman's suit at first. I wasn't sure when I saw the Batmobile. And obviously one of the things I really wasn't sure about was when I saw what the Riddler was looking like. But it's amazing how a good story, good acting, it makes you completely forget, and it makes you go, yeah, that is the Riddler. That's, if the Riddler was going to be a real guy, that is what he would look like. He wouldn't be cutting about in spandex with question marks. He would look like that, a Zodiac killer.
Yeah, everybody did phenomenal in this movie. I think all the actors did incredible. Yeah. Robert Pattinson, I feel like, should be nominated for something. Just his eye acting in the movie was so good. Especially for that one scene where you learn about the Waynes, like, and his eyes just like get wide. It's great. Pattinson does such a great job in the role. Zoe Kravitz Catwoman's so good too, and I think like they got the most chemistry too of any Catwoman Batman pair I've ever seen. They have the most chemistry. And I don't know if you've seen them in interviews. Have you seen them in interviews? Zoe Kravitz and Robert?
Yeah, well, I mean, like, do you know, this is going to sound really weird. Just quickly on Robert first, what I would say is he was incredible. Like, I think any movie fan knew, we spoke about it previously, he was going to kill it. We knew he was going to kill it. Obviously, there was a small minority obviously some of them we know are haters in general who are just looking to hate. And also there's that other small majority who still see him as the glowing vampire from Twilight. But I think we all knew that he's a great actor and he was going to kill it. He was absolutely incredible as Batman. I mean, that was the Batman. I love Michael Keaton. I've spoken my love for Michael Keaton for the upcoming Flash. I've spoken my love for Ben Affleck and Christian Bale, but that was the Batman we saw. That was genuinely the most Batman he's been. He's a detective. He could move. He could fight. He was intimidating in the suit. All the talk, he didn't work out, etc. I mean, he didn't need to. He looked absolutely incredible in that suit. And I think a lot of that goes down to Fraser, the cinematographer, who made him look absolutely incredible. Matt Reeves as well for his directing. But Robert Pattinson sells us. But me personally, sells it. He is Batman in that suit, and he could actually kick some ass the way he did.
Yeah, he looked incredible in the suit.
But obviously, talking about Zoe, and I thought Zoe was absolutely fantastic again. I think, obviously, we knew her role wasn't going to be, as big as Batman, but she was. She was, a key supporting role in that movie.
Oh yeah.
And I think she did really well. I think there's a bit of development there for her character. I think there's definitely room for hopefully an HBO Max series. Especially when we get into spoilers, how the movie ends with her character. I think there's definitely room there to continue her story on before we definitely see her again in a sequel.
Yeah.
But I think it's weird. Maybe it's just me, but when I was watching it at first, I didn't feel the chemistry as much. And maybe it's just me, because when I see them on the press tour, I'm like, oh my god, these two look like they just want to get back to the hotel. That's what it feels like. It doesn't. The chemistry feels frighteningly real.
Yeah.
If I'm Shannon Tatum and he's a really good-looking guy, I'd be worried. I know he's Zoe Kravitz's partner now, but I'd be worried. The way the chemistry they two have, but I felt like in the movie, maybe it was just me, but maybe that was the way they were acting it. I felt like I just didn't feel it as much. Maybe it was just me. Maybe I need to, maybe I'm looking too hard. But I felt like I was a tad feeling a bit off for that. But maybe in the sequel, we'll see it a bit better. I just thought that maybe in the movie, I don't know. Maybe it was just me.
Well, what sold it for me was Batman fighting Catwoman in that apartment or whatever. By the way, amazing music cue. I think that's like one of my favorite music cues in the movie when they start fighting. And she realizes she cannot take Batman. She tries to run around him and stuff like that.
Shades of Batman Returns, when Michelle Pfeiffer and Michael Keaton fight on the roof. Mm-hmm. I think, it was close to that. I still think maybe the Michelle Pfeiffer Michael Keaton was a slightly better, but I think that in terms of the way Batman and Catwoman worked together in this movie, it was, it's everything we've dreamed of as comic book fans.
Yeah. And she's not even full on like Catwoman yet. She doesn't have her cowl yet. Which the next time we see her, she's probably going to have the full like Catwoman get up and stuff. And people were complaining about Robert Pattinson not being Bruce Wayne enough. Like that's like we didn't see Bruce Wayne, we just saw Batman. But I'm like, Batman is Bruce Wayne. They're one and the same, really. Bruce Wayne is just a persona he puts on to fool the public. Like Batman's the real character.
Batman's the real person. I think that was, people that complain about that. I mean, come on. Like, I know. For years, I've seen runtimes on Twitter and Facebook and Instagram of people breaking down, the movie was 2.5 hours long and Batman was only in the suit for 25 minutes, etc. God, if you watch The Dark Knight Rises, I think it's almost an hour before we actually see him in the suit.
Yeah.
I think, like, no one can complain. Like, we got the Batman being the Batman.
Yeah, for a majority of the film. Like, it's mostly Batman. The film is centered on Batman. I feel like it's like one of the first films ever that's just centered on Batman, No,
it's definitely, as like I say, I keep saying, I'm repeating it, as the Batman.
Mm. Yeah, I mean, so good. Can we give some shine to James Gordon? My God, Jeffrey Wright, holy shit. He might be my favorite James Gordon of all time. Like, I love Gary Oldman, but like, James Gordon, goddamn. Thumb drive, hilarious.
But we're actually eating well with James Gordon this year, because obviously we have J.K. Simmons coming back and back as well. But, like, Jeffrey Wright, I think, again, he was one that as soon as he was cast,
you knew it was going to be good.
You knew it was going to be good. And it's so funny when you look back now at all these rumours and things, like people were actually shading us for getting a man of colour being Commissioner Gordon. You're just like, what? Go away. Right. like, and you look back now, Jeffrey Wright, genuinely, that was only the first movie, but if he continues in that vein, he again could become the James Gordon. He probably already has a good shout at that, but just, the way him and Rob are teaming up, the chemistry there as well, it wasn't obviously the same as Zoe Kravitz and Rob, but, like, the chemistry between them, you really did believe they had been doing this for a couple of years. They had each other's backs, etc.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, like James Gordon only trusts Batman in this movie. Like, he doesn't trust anybody else. Which is awesome. I love how when Batman first comes onto the crime scene, they're like, what the hell's he doing here? You got a goddamn vigilante walking around, stuff like so it's like this is the first time Batman's working with the police like this, in his first 2 years of being Batman.
Even before that, I mean, one of the things going in this movie I wanted, because this is what, like, the third or fourth reboot we've had a Batman as a character, and we've had some very different takes. We had the gothic Michael Keaton, we had the very comedic turn of George Clooney and Val Kilmer, we had Christian Bale's hyper-realism take, we had obviously Ben Affleck's boxing
Dark Knight,
type,
Dark
sort
Knight
of
Returns.
take. Yeah, kind of Dark Knight, sort of Dark Knight Returns take. I think that they had to distinguish this Batman as something different. And starting off with a monologue, as we would read in any Batman comic, was, oh man, do you know, see, at that moment, as soon as I heard them say Wednesday, October 31st, I was like, oh my God. Like, I knew at that moment it was, I knew we were looking at a 10 out of 10 straight away for that moment, but just hearing that, knowing the movie, and this isn't spoilers, gets bookended with Rob giving us a monologue, and it's not even just giving us the monologue, the fact that what he's saying about he is the shadows, and
so Batman,
the fear, you're just like, oh, that first 30 to 45 minutes, that'll never be topped.
Yeah, dude.
People for the last few years have went, the warehouse scene in BVS. Like, no. Like, I mean, like, we are talking 45 minutes solid of just masterpiece Batman that will never be topped. Like, genuinely, it will never be topped. Like, no matter what Matt Reeves does next, you'll never be able to top that first 45 minutes. If
people want to make the argument that this Batman movie is a masterpiece, I find it tough to argue with them. I do find it tough to argue with those people. Because the first 2/3 of this movie is like perfect. Like, you can't get any more perfect. It's the last act that feels a little rushed, but still, like, it's so Batman in the last act, and the resolution he comes to at the end, and what he says at the end is like so perfect, and it just it summarizes the movie perfectly. And I want to see that 4-hour cut that they tested. They did test this cut. I want to see what the deleted scenes were, for sure. Because it does feel like there's a scene missing near the end, but
obviously we'll talk about it in the spoilers, but I can see where the cuts have happened. You can see it, like, but it's not. It doesn't take away from the movie or anything like that.
No, it's still a 10. But it's still like a 10 as far as Batman goes.
It's definitely a 10 out of 10. But I think that, well, I mean, I'll get to that in a second when we give it a letter grade before we go to spoilers. But I think that. But you can definitely see some things have been censored, etc. But what we get is an absolute masterpiece. And, end groups complain about 3-hour runtime. No. I will say, once you get to the final act, which we'll discuss in a moment, you do start to feel the pace ever so slightly. But I think what I have to say about that final segment and what they decide to do in it before the ending of the movie, I feel like Matt Reeves maybe just tried just a little bit too much. It was just a little tad too much. But that's also a complaint I've got about The Dark Knight as well. famously at the end of the Dark Knight, they have the prisoners and the people, the citizens in the two boats, and they have the detonation device. And I think that scene in the Dark Knight is maybe just a joke too far, and I feel like maybe in this movie it's just a little too far. But I don't blame Matt Reeves. He's got the ambition. It was stunning visuals, and for what actually happened, but maybe just a tad too far.
Yeah, I mean, those visuals are top notch in this movie, like without a doubt. Like, people have seen the shot in the trailer where he's like leading the people out with the red flare through the water.
Yeah,
it's very like Moses part in the Red Sea type stuff. Like it's just very
stunning.
Yeah, it's amazing visuals, and I do agree. A little too far as like flooding the city and stuff. It just felt like it kind of came out of nowhere. Like, why did Riddler want to flood the city all of a sudden? I wonder if there was some cutscenes that led into that even more, like teased that even more earlier in the film or something.
Yeah.
But, I can forgive that because I feel like they do so much cool stuff in that last third act anyway. Like, it just makes up for it. Totally. And you need something big to happen at the end of the movie. So, I loved Riddler, dude. Paul Dano, I loved it. I love the interpretation of Riddler. I love how he's like super intelligent, but he hasn't emotionally grown up since he was a child or something like that, you know, because he's been an orphan. And he's kind of like the dark side of Batman, which is every great Batman villain is a reflection of Batman. And, dude, just absolutely killed it with Riddler.
Yeah, sensational.
Yeah.
I actually think if everybody listened to the last podcast, I think it actually helped that I did mention about the whole orphanage thing, because that was never mentioned about they getting burnt down by the Riddler. You had to actually read that book to know that's where that was going. But again, like we didn't want an origin story for Batman, but we also didn't want Batman like Ben Affleck at the end of his career. We kind of wanted that in between, and I feel like we're going to get that with this trilogy. We're going to get a Batman who's in his prime. His villains are either at the beginning or just rising. So we're actually going to finally get the Batman universe. No spoilers, but we're going to get this Batman universe that we've wanted for a long time. Yeah,
and speaking of Batman villains, I mean, they're turning that Gotham PD show into an Arkham Asylum show. So, like, I expect we're going to see tons of Batman villains coming up on that show and, in its movies and stuff. More than we've ever gotten as far as Batman goes. So excited. I'm just so excited to see the Matt Reeves interpretation of all the Batman villains, because he kind of nails it with Riddler. And there's another Batman villain in the end of the film. We could talk about that later, but I'm pretty sure most people know what it is. If you've been on the internet for like the last couple of weeks.
We'll jump. I think we're probably better just jump to spoilers. We'll give a 8 out of 10, then we'll jump to spoilers, and then we'll get to it. Because I feel like the more we talk about it, the more we're going to just let something go. And we're going to like... Listen, if you're listening to this, you've seen the movie, but it's still good to leave a bit of suspense, I guess.
So what rating would you get? What rating would you get the
movie? When I first saw it, I would have given it a 9, just because of that final act. I think it just slightly knocked it. But the other reason because I would have given it a 9 was because I don't want it to be perfect yet, because I know Matt Reeves is going to be doing this for probably the next decade.
Yeah.
I think this opening weekend is guaranteed that Matt Reeves is going to get whatever he wants at this point. I think that is going to it's basically giving Matt Reeves the keys to the kingdom. But I'm going to get it has to be a 10. Genuinely, like, I cannot, there's nothing in this movie that I can say that I didn't love. Even the design choices before that I was a bit, wary of. The Batmobile, there's a scene in the movie where the Batmobile first comes alive, and it's it's a scene you've seen in Batman movies before. You've seen it in Batman '89. You've seen it in the Dark Knight. You've seen it in Dawn of Justice. But I love the fact that he stalls the Batmobile, like just as he starts to drive towards the Penguin, and I think that just those little moments are absolutely incredible. So I'm going to give it a 10, but even though I'm giving it a 10, I still think Matt Reeves could do better. I think he could take it to 11 or 12. I'm being serious here. I genuinely believe it's a 10 now, but I do believe after what I've seen there, Matt Reeves could take this even better.
Yeah. I mean, when I first walked out of the film, I agree. When I first walked out of the film, I was like over the moon. I'm like, this is 11 out of 10. Like, this is like the first 11 out of 10 ever. Like, this is a fucking film. It was just blowing my mind when I first walked out. Realistically, I'm probably sitting more at like a 10 out of 10. You know what I'm saying? But yeah, I agree. There's definitely, Matt Reeves could definitely go further. And I feel like this Batman movie was the testing ground for him. Like, Warner Brothers was just like, you know, let's see if you can make a great film. And he did. So now they're going to really let him do whatever he wants the next movie. Yeah. As if they weren't already giving him a lot of, leash. You know,
I feel like, Warner Brothers have known, like we spoke about this for the last year together privately. And then since we've started this podcast, they knew they had a winner. Like a way back at DC Fandom, was it 2019 or 2020? When they first showed us the teaser, they'd only shot about 40% of the movie. They knew they had, a masterpiece on their hands. Like, there was no doubt. It was just unfortunately, because the DC brand has been damaged so badly over the last couple of years, convincing a lot of people who have walked away from DC. No matter what anybody tells you online, people did walk away from DC after the double blow Batman v Superman, Suicide Squad, Justice League as well. Obviously, the theatrical cut. Even Man of Steel, I think, to an extent, that movie, although it's a lot of love from fans, general audience, that movie had a horrific drop-off and hasn't got the greatest word of mouth for general audience viewers. So, there's been a lot of blows to DC, and it's just good to see that the studios finally learned to give, creators freedom. We've seen that now with James Gunn. We've seen it with Patty Jenkins in Wonder Woman 1984. And of course, that movie didn't do as well as the first Wonder Woman. The best, but they still gave Patty, complete freedom.
Yeah.
And at the end of the day, when you do that and you don't have somebody controlling it, you're going to have massive highs like, Todd Phillips' Joker, like Matt Reeves, the Batman. Even Kathy Yan with Birds of Prey, she got complete creative control there. And obviously that movie is quite divisive. Obviously critics loved it, but, with fans it's a bit more mixed. But, this is the route I want to see WB take. I want to see them giving people, creators, freedom. And if it ties into the broader universe, fantastic. I think going forward it's pretty clear where the universes are going to go. I think Matt Reeves is going to build this Batman thing out to something incredible. And I think that time will tell for the DCEU. But, Peacemaker was a smash hit, and, we've got another 3 theatrical DC movies to come this year. And if it's anything like we started off this year, we're in for a great years of DC fans.
100%, dude. And, I like Matt Reeves' attitude, too. If you've seen his interviews, he keeps talking about how he's the custodian for Batman. There'll be another director and writer that comes and takes on Batman stuff. I like that attitude, He's very humble about it, which is great. He's not saying his take is the only take, which is really good. I think there's a lot of fans out there that were trying to boycott this movie. It did not work in their favor.
I think, one thing, if we just want to quickly have a wee quick kick back at these people, because they deserve it. Yeah. What I will say about the whole boycott campaign is, I think, again, it's more proof that big fan base, the phenomenon fan base, is very small. It's more proof that they aren't as big as they think they are, and not to believe Twitter, because that isn't real world. It's more proof that these hashtag campaigns, these buying bots, isn't real. It isn't. It's not. At the end of the day, Warner Brothers are going to try and go after the general audience. With the Batman, it seems like it's going to be a more adult take on the character. And it looks like with the DCEU, especially what we're seeing from Black Adam, The Flash, Aquaman, Shazam, it is going to be a lot more family friendly. And I like that,
Yeah.
But to make that work, to make that, to make the plan work, having 2 coexisting universes, because it is a brave move to have, a Batman sort of universe where all the Batman characters exist, but yet still have, the Michael Keaton Batman, Batgirl, Bat family going on in the DCEU. That's brave. And they needed the Batman to hit. And thank God it's hit, because now it's going to hopefully help with the DCU as well. So it'll mean that Warner Bros. Go, okay, we know the audiences understand there's going to be two, two different versions.
I was actually surprised how little Warner Brothers actually pushed this Batman film. I mean, we only got a few trailers and a Little Caesar's Pizza. Like, that's all we got for this movie, and it's gonna make bank just by word of mouth. Like, everybody coming out of this movie is just gonna tell their friends and family to see it. I think
that's probably like we're saying there. They knew.
Yeah, they knew
had
this
a hit.
happen. Yeah,
so they knew people were going to come and see it. But we'll go to spoilers now if you want.
Oh yeah, man. What's your favorite Easter eggs from the movie? I'll go with mine first. It's probably the Hush Easter egg. It's probably when the reporter is Thomas Elliot's father, and it's all hush. They're all hushing him up because he has some information on the Waynes and stuff like that. I just thought it was just a great little, just like a throwaway thing. And if you're not a comic book fan, you're not going to notice it, even though it's in giant letters on the screen. You're not going to really connect those together. But yeah, that kind of stuff right there. Them mentioning the Arkhams and the Waynes are like the founding families of Gotham and stuff like that.
No, it's lovely. It's lovely.
All those moments like that are like all over the film too. Like,
and that's what I was saying there in the non-spoiler review we did there. I was saying this sort of had to be something different. We had to see something different from this Batman reboot. It couldn't be just another Dark Knight, and that I did worry. Like I said before, I did worry that it was going to be a sort of tribute to Nolan type thing, and in a way it is. There's a lot of scenes in the movie, especially one with the Riddler in Arkham Asylum and Batman, where they are sort of paying homage, not ripping off, not at all, but they're paying homage to the famous Heath Ledger and Christian Bale interrogation scene from The Dark Knight. But a very different scene, but also paying homage.
Did you hear what the Batman? There's a producer on the Batman that came out and said they were trying to top Nolan. Like, that was their goal with the movie. Did you see that?
Well,
if I can pull up that guy's name,
I think he it might have been Dylan Clark. I think he's the
something like that.
Yeah. But I think what is this movie better than The Dark Knight? I don't know. I think that it's very close. And but you see, just saying it's very close. I did not think any movie could get close to The Dark Knight. Genuinely, when I'm getting into a Batman movie, when I was going into it, I was thinking if it can be better than Batman '89. Yeah, I love Batman '89. I think it's a fantastic film. I think Batman Returns is a very dark film, but I think it's fantastic. So if it's better than those two, maybe better than the Batman Begins and The Dark Knight Rises, I mean, that would be great as well. Mm-hmm. But I'd never expect, it's unrealistic. It's like every Marvel movie for the last decade, they don't even go there when it comes to The Dark Knight because they know you can't get near it.
Yeah, even their best Marvel movie, Winter Soldier, I wouldn't even think comes close to Dark Knight, honestly. Like, there's very few films in general that come close to Dark Knight, and just how good that film is just as a film. And this Batman film, I feel like maybe it might not be as good as The Dark Knight as far as film goes, but as far as Batman goes, I think it's better. Like, I think you get more Batman in this Batman film than you ever.
I think. I think, like I say, is it better? Genuinely, on any given day, I could go and see the movie again tomorrow, and I'll probably come out and tell you it's better. If you asked me last night, I'd have said it was better, but when today I actually watched a bit of The Dark Knight, and I'm like, oh, this is brilliant as well. So it's like we're talking about, we are generally talking about two of the greatest, not only comic book movies, but movies of all time, in my opinion. I think The Batman is going to get a lot of mainstream credit. I think The Batman could get the credit that the Joker got. I truly believe that. I think that people were campaigning for Spider-Man, etc., to get credit at the Oscars. Yeah. But that movie's different. These movies are different. The Batman feels like what you would say is a proper movie.
Yeah.
It genuinely feels it's an epic movie.
Color palette
and I
in
think
the movie is incredible too. I know everyone says it's real dark, but I feel like they even use the darkness to their favor. Like the opening 10 minutes of the film, the camera's literally looking at dark shadows, and you're like, you're feeling the terror in the criminals. You know, you're feeling their fear. Just great how they use
I think
darkness.
Joe, what's amazing about Alex, like, is I went to the movie now with different people, and when I'm sitting with them, because I saw it the first time, so obviously when I saw it the first time, I'm like, holy shit! When you first see that opening, you know, after the Riddler's committed his first murder in Mayor Coulson, after that, and you see Rob narrating, and then you obviously are waiting to see him show up, and you know he's coming, like legit, like at the first time I saw it, I'm like terrified, when he comes out of the shadows. But I'm watching other people now, and I'm just seeing, like, I'm seeing the popcorn falling down. I'm seeing the popcorn falling out mouths. I'm seeing people just like freezing still because they're like, holy shit. Because no one's expecting that level of cinematography and that level of, you know, just the eeriness of Rob when you see his boots come first. You see the rain falling. You see that suit when, you know, we've seen that suit so many times in leaked pictures, etc. I saw it here in Glasgow when they were shooting the final scene of the Batman at the cemetery, and I saw that suit, and I wasn't sure, but when you see it, you know, with a lens, it's actually a lesson to people, especially people who are out there shitting on, you know, like the Flash or shitting on Supergirl, etc. That you see, once these movies have been filtered and edited, these suits look incredible.
Oh yeah, man. Yeah, you can't look at behind the scenes photos and just like expect that's what it's gonna look like in the final product. Like, people that do that are very dumb. I remember when this Batman movie was first filming, we saw the stunt Batman guy on the Bat bike with the big helmet, and everyone thought like that was the cowl. Like that's what it was gonna look like. No, it's a stunt helmet. You goddamn morons! You know, people jump to all sorts of conclusions when they see the.
I think people didn't do that recently. I think we've all learned not to do it, because then Michael Keaton's stunt double got leaked recently, and he looked incredible, the stunt double, and nobody really shit on it, because I think they knew that, one, the suit looked incredible, and two,
it's going to look better.
Obviously, it's going to look better with the filter on, so people have kind of learned. But it's just quite incredible looking back now, when this movie, it'll be good in future, we do a breakdown looking back on it, but I mean, it's just incredible when you look at how many things were doubted about this movie. And by the way, I was one of the people that were doubting it. You know, I wasn't sure this movie could deliver. But I am, you know, I'm so happy I'm eating humble pie right now.
I mean, it was so good. It's so fucking good.
It's so good.
You know, it's almost hard to believe how good the job they did. And it makes sense why they were trying to hold back this movie until they could get like the most amount of people to see it. But yeah, man, what's some of those? Well,
actually, just quickly, because you asked me about the Easter egg. I don't have one specific Easter egg. I just think there's so many story beats that were nailed. But one of the things I would say that it's not much an Easter egg, but it's just more of a cool reference that, you know, people might not get, is when they say the Penguin runs the Iceberg Lounge.
Oh yeah,
I'm like, oh my god, like, no way. And yet, isn't the Iceberg Lounge as it will probably become? Maybe in this Penguin show, we might actually see it become the fully fledged Iceberg Lounge that we know from the comics. And by the way, I would not put it past Matt Reeves to have it as, you know, the Iceberg Lounge with like an ice rink or something like that going on there, because he seems to be that in line with the comics and that fine-tuned. Also, I kind of liked that they did the very, you know, year one Carmine Falcone as the father of Catwoman, Selena Kyle. I like that. That was a really interesting thing to do. Also to give him the scars, the famous scars.
When she scratched his face, I almost jumped out of my seat. I'm like, oh my god, like this is straight out of Long Halloween. Like this is, And when you go to the fan premiere, I went to the fan premiere on March 1st. They hand out the first issue of Long Halloween to everybody. So, you know, totally that was like the main influence. the film even opens on Halloween, so
I think I thought, going in, I thought it was really going to be Long Halloween, and yeah, it is. But I think there's so many different, influences on this. I think Long Halloween looms hard over it, but I also think, Batman the Cult really hard lingers over this. I also think that you've got elements of,
Year One,
Earth One,
Earth One,
Year One, Earth One from Jeff Johns, especially with Alfred. Training Bruce to be the fighter, etc. There's a lot of elements there, a lot of different comics. It's not just the one they're trying to adaptate. But there's so many different elements that going on there. And even at the Arkham games, some of the Riddler, some of the riddles and stuff going on there. I feel like there's a lot of influence taken from that, because I feel like that's a series that's really made the Riddler more than just the 60s or the Jim Carrey Batman Forever clown. I feel like that game really hardened that character up, and I think that Matt Reeves has just took it to the next level with the Zodiac sort of influenced Riddler there.
Yeah, I mean, we gotta talk about Penguin a little bit more. Kind of
oh my god,
him, but like Colin Farrell did such a good job as Penguin. Unreal, completely unrecognizable. But the way he just walked around, like, was screaming like Penguin. Saying he was like waddling around. It was great. And he's in a tuxedo when you first see him. Like he's wearing a penguin suit when you first see him. It's great. His henchmen are holding umbrellas. It's raining all the time. This whole movie takes place over the span of 1 week, by the way. It's all 1 week, so it's raining the whole time. I don't know if you saw it in like Dolby Digital, like with the big speakers, but you could hear the rain the whole time. Like it's so good. But yeah, Penguin, Colin Farrell, unbelievable. That whole scene where he's like, you don't know the difference between L and La? Am I the only one that knows the difference? No Espanol? So good.
I think that he actually, speaking about awards, etc. As much as I think Rob deserves to be,
he might get one.
Because I think Colin could really be considered for supporting a supporting award of some kind, because I thought he was fantastic. Obviously, he wasn't in it as much as Batman or Catwoman, but the scenes he did have, they stuck with you and they were funny. It was also quite intimidating as well. And I think, again, we were speaking before the movie, which is fantastic to go back and listen to that podcast. We were speaking about how good would it be to have a Batman universe where Batman goes to the Penguin for some information, or a villain goes to the Penguin to get some drugs or weapons. And maybe it isn't just the Penguin show, but the Penguin is sort of the middleman, the middle mob man. And I feel like that's what we're getting with this Penguin. As much as, I love to see the Penguin, etc., he isn't a heavy, he isn't a Joker or Riddler or Mr. Freeze or whatever. He's not, he's sort of that Penguin Two-Face level, middle of the road type villains. And I think it's amazing that we've actually got a Penguin that Batman can go and interrogate now, and sort of, and he's going around calling him Vengeance.
Yeah.
Like, it's funny, it's just hilarious.
I love the theme of the movie, how Batman is vengeance. And it inspires Riddler. And even at the end, one of his goons says, "I'm vengeance." And the whole point of the movie is that Batman realizes that vengeance isn't the answer, that he has to become something more. He becomes hope for the people of Gotham City at the end. I love that theme. I love that story arc Batman goes on, because he is just a brutal motherfucker, like in the movie. And there's a great scene where he just walks into the Iceberg Lounge and just beats everybody up, just goes to the front door, just beats everybody up to get to Penguin. It's near the beginning of the film and stuff. And like, that's what a young Batman would do. Like, he would just beat everybody up. You know what I'm saying? He wouldn't think about the repercussions of what he's doing. And a Riddler kind of makes him see that he has an effect on everybody, for good or bad. And in Riddler's case, it's bad. He's causing more people to become vigilantes and murderers and stuff like that. I think there's a point in the film where Batman says he's been Batman for 2 years and crime has only gone up. So, yeah, the vengeance angle is not doing it for Batman. I like that's what the film explores. And Batman doesn't win technically. Like Riddler kind of wins. He floods the city. He kills tons of people. I'm sure tons of people died in the flooding. And the only thing Batman's able to do is save people from the building that got flooded, right? That's about as much heroic things as he's able to do, really. But still, I like that arc that he finally realizes that he is the hope for Gotham City. And the people that he's saving actually reach out to him and they're not scared of him. Like the beginning of the movie, he saves a guy and the guy's actually scared of him. He says, don't hurt me, one of the civilians. So, I just love the whole fucking movie,
Yeah, but I think that guy thought it was Ben Affleck and he thought he was going to die.
Is he going to shoot me?
Is he going to open fire on me here?
Yeah. Believe me, I will fucking kill you. Okay, Batman.
Well, actually, I think he thought he was going to give him a reach around.
Oh, yeah, reach around. Dude. Can we talk about the Joker now? We're in spoiler territory. We got to talk about Joker. People, they're iffy about this Joker in this movie. There's a 10% chance that it might not be Joker. When I was looking at it, I'm like, is this Joker? His face is all fucked up. It's all scarred. But then he starts laughing. And you're like, yeah, it's probably Joker.
The funny thing about that is also we spoke in the last episode about Barry Keogh, and we speculated that he would be the Joker, but we thought because we thought there was going to be a GCPD show coming, and obviously they were cast. I can't remember the name of the cop again. He was cast as, but on IMDb. Yeah, and also there was set pictures of. We'll speak about this in a moment actually, but a lot of very clever stuff going on in the set to mislead us. But there was set pictures, obviously, of Barry Keogh in a GCPD uniform. So we all just thought that's who he was playing. But, I saw him in Eternals. I said about his laugh in Eternals. It was a very different laugh here. Very different. I'm not sure on it, but again, very hard to judge a less than 60-second scene. But I think that it was amazing that actually they managed to catch us out. But I was looking for them throughout the movie. I was looking for Barry Keogh as the movie was going on. I was like, we haven't seen him yet. And I think, obviously, when the scene starts to play out, straight away, it's him. And again, this is a young Joker as well. We don't know the backstory. It seems like they're going to be doing, as we'll get to later on, an Arkham Asylum mini-series instead of the GCPD one.
And I bet he'll be featured in it.
I feel like he'll be a heavy role in that because I think I saw Matt Reeves say that he wasn't planning on having the Joker as the main antagonist in the second movie. At least not, the forefront. And again, it doesn't need to be, that's been, I hate to say it, but that's been done, to an extent. The Joker in this universe can be used in different ways. The same way the Penguin doesn't need to be the main villain, This movie managed to have Penguin, Carmine Falcone, the Riddler, Joker, making Catwoman. It doesn't need them to be the main villain. This is a Batman universe where there's going to be hopefully every single Batman character popping up in some shape or form through the next couple of years. But I think that when the scene happens, etc., you see him initially, and I'm like, oh, is he playing the Joker, etc.? And I could hear some people in my audience the first time go Two-Face.
Yeah, that's what my buddy said the first time he saw it. He's like, is that Two-Face?
I feel like Two-Face. Well, it could be Two-Face, but I feel like
it might be too early. It's only second year. Yeah.
I think Harvey Dent will be a bit of a character in this. I feel like we'll get a bit of Harvey Dent in this universe as well. I feel like that will be maybe either Harvey Dent.
They need
transform.
They need a new district attorney. They have a spot open in Gotham.
That
City.
opens it up for Harvey Dent to slip in there, doesn't it? But it's interesting. It's really interesting to see what this Joker's deal is. Has Batman faced him? Well, he has because he's in Arkham. Yeah. So
did you see Matt Reeves explain the Joker character, like in an IGN interview. He was talking about how this Joker is not a Joker that fell into the Ace chemicals. He's like a guy that has had this smiling condition his whole life, and it's drove him crazy and stuff like that. And he is a guy Batman caught his first year. And Matt Reeves also said they had another scene shot with this Joker that took place earlier in the Batman film. And it was Batman going to this serial killer that he caught his first year to try to figure out, to get a profile on Riddler, right? So he's going to talk to a former serial killer he already caught, which is the Joker.
I don't know if you heard that at the end of the movie, obviously the post-credit scenes telling you to go on that website, the El Rata one.
Oh yeah.
And if you actually go on that website right now and click through it, it seems like it's a riddle, but it's only going to, I think it was 34% last night. So I have heard that in a couple of weeks, once this movie's played its course, I'd imagine it'll be in 4 weeks when it goes to HBO Max. Because at that point, HBO Max is going to be available not only in the US, but it's going to be available in quite a lot of Europe. It's probably going to kill the movie's legs at that point.
Sure.
But by that point, I'd imagine, that's 4 or 5 weeks away. I mean, the movie, if it's going to make $1 billion, it's going to be there by that point already anyway.
Yeah.
And actually, without predicting box office, we might do that at the end. I think it's got a really good chance of that. But what I will say is, I think that scene might appear on the website. I think that's what we'll get. I think we'll get that scene.
That'd be nice.
Instead of doing. I think that's the way that'll go. I could be wrong, and this will look stupid. But
Matt Reeves said about that scene as well that they will release it eventually.
That makes sense. Well, it makes sense then if that's what you said. I think that makes sense to be. I think we'll get it. I think they would rather do that and give the. Give that scene, that end credit scene, a bit more. I don't know if you've actually been on the website yet, but if you go on the website, it does say 34%. So I'm thinking to myself that once, the movie's played out over the next, month and a bit, that it will be available. That we might see a bit of that scene on the website.
Oh, yeah. I mean, do you think Batman's showing up in that Gotham PD Arkham Asylum show? I don't know if he would. You might see like flashes of him, but I don't think he would actually like show up.
After what happened in Peacemaker, which we'll obviously not spoil, I think that the guys at DC, Walter Hamada, etc., they're not messing about. This isn't the CW. This isn't just teases. They are willing to go and do the crazy shit. Obviously, this is a separate universe, but. I think Rob, just listening to him, I think he's all in the Batman character.
Sounds like
I think he's got about 3 or 4 projects coming up, so I'd imagine we probably won't get the Batman sequel till at least about 2023, 2024. Maybe not 2023, maybe 2024 probably.
Yeah. I hope they're
which is good.
They better be like on the ball, like shoot this Batman film like this fall. Shoot the next one. Like they gotta go. Like, you can't have people wait 4 or 5 years for the next Batman film.
I think they would have done that, but I think because this Batman movie has taken so long, I think they probably want to, just because of the pandemic, etc. This movie's been shooting for 2 years. I think they want. I think I saw Dylan Clark, the producer, say we'll definitely get a sequel by 2025. Yeah. So nobody wants to wait that long, but. I think you see him in the Aquaman recently. The first movie came out the fall of 2018, and we're just getting the sequel the fall of 2022.
There's a 4-year gap.
Sometimes sometimes you have to give it a bit of time, etc. And I think with the schedule, etc. I think we might have to wait a bit longer. But I think the beauty with having Matt Reeves so in line and in tune and wanting to do this Batman universe, we're probably going to get Penguin show. We're going to get the Arkham show. Hopefully we get the Catwoman spin-off, and that should tide us over until we get to the Batman.
It just blows my mind. It really blows my mind that they changed that Gotham PD into an Arkham Asylum show. Like, because what's the one thing that can carry a Batman universe? It's all his villains, right? Like, you could just have a show just showing his villains, and there you go. You could make it Monster of the Week, literally a different Batman villain every week. Really, like
they could do that show in a way. It could be. I'm not saying it could be almost like American Horror Story almost.
Yeah.
but it could be like they could have a new intern, Dr. Harleen Quinzel, come in, and each episode, say it's like a 6 or 7 series mini part, we could have a Waylon Jones. I don't know if they would do that. Maybe not do that. I don't know. They could have a Scarecrow, a Jonathan Crane. They could have a Mad Hatter. They could have a Victor Zsasz. And each week, we could get an origin story. Maybe even have a stunt double, or even Rob himself cameo and show the scene where Batman collects them.
Yeah.
I don't know if they would. I don't know if they would do that, but
Cool.
After Peacemaker, I wouldn't rule it out. And then maybe combining the final episode, showing us Barry Keoghan's Joker, giving us a bit of an origin with him, and then hopefully maybe have him and Harley meet. I think that's the way they're probably going to go. That's actually another interesting point. Away from all this, like DC are saying they're doing the multiverse. They've got off to a good start. They've had a few hits in a row now. The Batman is a major hit.
Mm-hmm.
If they are really serious about the multiverse, will they have a version of Harley Quinn in the Batman, but also have Margot Robbie?
I would like to think. Yeah.
I would hope they would have the balls to do that, but I'm just not sure,
yeah, you're right, because Margot Robbie has like it seems like she has the licensing over the character for, but she doesn't.
Would that piss her off? Would that piss her off?
She's still young. She could be Harley Quinn for another 10 years if she wanted, but.
And I feel like the Harley Quinn, though, in the DCEU is a completely different Harley Quinn than the one we would get there. I mean, I think one thing we didn't get with the DCEU Harley Quinn is we didn't get Harley and the Joker together.
No.
We skipped to that being over. I feel like the Harley we see in the DCEU is the independent Harley, the one that's moving on. She's in the Birds of Prey, she's like a leader of the Suicide Squad almost.
They made a whole animated show essentially based on the Margot Robbie Harley Quinn, really.
So I feel like they're different versions. The same way, that I think that I hope that the DCEU, we know there's going to be, well, we don't know for sure, but there's going to be a Robin and Batgirl, and it's been said by major trades, by people we trust, that he's going to they're planning a Nightwing movie. Based off a Robin that was associated with Michael Keaton at some point. I just hope that they continue with those plans as well, and they understand that the general audience knows the multiverse. We're not stupid. People know, and see, at the end of the day as well, see, even if you don't know, it's good hype. Going into Black Adam, people who just saw the Batman, maybe have just came back to DC, see Black Adam come and see The Rock, that will drive traffic to that movie just because people go, oh, DC films are good, Yeah.
That's the hope. I mean, this really feels like DC's year. It's starting off amazing with Peacemaker and Batman, like back to back. If those other movies are just entertaining, that'll be enough. Obviously, I don't think they're going to be the level of this Batman movie as far as like filmmaking goes, but if they're just entertaining,
it's like, Alex, it's like they don't have to be. I think maybe there's a bit more pressure on The Flash just because like that movie's like imperative to the whole plan, going forward. Like legit, we've got like a Batgirl movie currently filming that's set in a new timeline, like before the movie that sets the new timeline up, and we know Blue Beetle's about to start shooting. We know that Black Canary will be getting into production soon, like Green Lantern Corps. So we know there's so much stuff going into production that's all going to be set in this new timeline that, that the Flash has got that extra bit that has to be good. It has to click, like it has to like mesh with general. But none of these movies are, it's like this Suicide Squad, a very different movie from the Batman, but just as, compelling. But it's a different sort of movie, but, it's still stunning, but it's not, the Batman's trying to be the Godfather, whereas the Suicide Squad's trying to be Guardians of the Galaxy. You know what I mean? Like, they're very valid takes, and I think it helps distinguish the difference between these two universes. And it might end up being that the Batman will become the more popular universe.
What do they do then? What happens if these other DC films come out and they kind of
as
flounder.
As I said in the last podcast, it's it's a perfect escape hatch.
It is.
If this DC slate fails, they're going to be looking at the Batman as the escape hatch. But I think right now, I think that we can only be confident that DC are giving us good material. If you look at ever since Justice League in 2017, I know this is a bit off tangent, but since Justice League 2017, we've had Aquaman, Shazam, Birds of Prey, Joker, Wonder Woman 1984, the Suicide Squad, Peacemaker, and then the Batman. DC, look, you can genuinely point and say Birds of Prey, although it was well received by critics, was mixed with fans, and you can say that Wonder Woman 1984 probably missed the boat. But outside of that, DC are on. They're on the ball. They're bringing out good products. People are liking it. Yeah. And the Batman is just another sign that general audiences are ready to give DC another try.
Yeah, I mean, if anything, this Batman film just builds some goodwill. If anything, dude, can we talk about some more stuff from the movie? Like,
cool for that, yeah. This
Batman movie, it's super grounded and stuff, right? But like, there are plenty of fantastical moments that happen, like the eyeball technology contact lens. It's like a camera. Like, come on, like that
was amazing, man.
That's like straight like out of some Batman comic book, And when he injects himself with some green serum in the end, everyone's trying to tell me it's adrenaline, but I'm like, what adrenaline is green, y'all? Like, what the fuck? Like, it's got to be some form of venom or some early predecessor to venom or something like that. Like he rages out and smashes that dude's face. That was another moment that made me jump when he like pulled out this green serum and injected himself and started raging out. I was like, holy shit! Like, they're going there, like you can, in this universe, you could totally have a dude that shoots a ray gun, you could totally have Bane. You could totally have a Man-Bat if you wanted. There's another moment where Batman smacks into like a concrete, ceiling, like full speed, like 100 miles an hour, just gets up and walks away. So it's grounded, but it's not realism, Yeah,
it's like, it's that hyper realism that I was saying in the last podcast. It's like, this is a universe that, it's very much set. He's tech, the Batarang, etc. It's all sort of based in reality. It's all stuff you could make essentially, but you also watch it and go, but I could see a Bane. I could see Bane being done properly. Yeah. As much as Tom Hardy's a fantastic Bane, I think we could see that sort of Bane. Although I'd be interested to see how much. I think this universe actually will turn into just the Batman universe that will just be Batman characters. And see, to be fair, I'm happy. I've said before that I still don't buy Batman with the Justice League. It's a hard sell. Yeah. It's a really difficult sell, and I'm really happy they're keeping him away. As much as we're going to get Michael Keaton, they're doing clever things with Michael Keaton so that Michael Keaton won't be exposed to monsters and demons, because we saw with Ben Affleck it became extremely difficult to watch.
Yeah, Batman fighting parademons.
But then we see Batman here when he's on street level fighting thugs. The guy's an absolute ninja. Like, this is the most. I still think the warehouse scene in BVS, because that is an isolated scene in terms of the way they shot it, like the Arkham games, and it's literally out of that movie. It's the fastest you see Batman move. He doesn't move like that again, either in BVS or Justice League. It's like that's the one scene they probably took about 3 months to shoot.
Yeah, and
they just focused on it because they knew that was going to be their daddy scene. There's no scene like that here. I wouldn't say, but overall, just his fighting style was very consistent. It's believable this guy would take you down. When he actually gets hit, Batman, it's not like he's he's invincible.
Yeah, he's not perfect.
The scenes where people catch him from behind, the scene where they get dragged through his cape, it's quite a funny scene actually.
Yeah.
And then, he's vulnerable, this Batman, but he's also very tactile, he's very quick, he's very, he'll use different tech, he'll pick things up and hit you with them. His scenes where he's picking logs up, etc., and hitting people over the head with them. And the most important thing, he doesn't kill.
Yeah,
you know.
I
And
mean,
I
at
think
least not
that-
intentionally in this movie.
No.
Yeah.
I think you know, like there's question marks over a couple of scenes. I think there was
Oh,
a quick cut at the end of the movie when the water's flooding the Gotham City Hall venue. It's meant to be
It's like Gotham's
yeah,
Coliseum or something like that. I don't-
yeah, something like that. I think it's maybe like Madison Square Garden.
Yeah.
And it's getting flooded. And I think a few people fall off. I know most of them are caught in the ropes, but there's a couple that fall off and there's a quick cut. I think we'll maybe see that in this director's cut if we ever get to see it, which we probably will. I think that maybe, but and there's a couple of scenes with the car and stuff, where the things are exploding and stuff.
Oh, yeah.
But I, again, there's no outright killing. You know, there's no snapping an X or shooting or like just needless destruction. You know, like things are happening around Batman aren't actually him that's doing it.
Yeah.
You know.
Like Penguin
I go back
causes
to
most of the kills on the fucking
Yeah,
car chase.
yeah,
you know?
yeah. Well, that's the car wreckage scene. That's Penguin. You know, it's not like BVS where Batman smashes a car
Yeah,
and
he's
then
driving
just to make
through
sure
cars.
they're dead,
Yeah.
he picks it up and flips it and makes sure the people inside die. It's not like that. But it's phenomenal. You know, even that Penguin scene, the chase. Although we've seen the Batmobile chase in the past, I think it's fantastic. That the Batmobile was a big criticism I had. I think it's fantastic. I think it's honestly, genuinely. I still don't think it's better than. I still don't think anything's going to top the '89 Batmobile. I still think that is the definitive Batmobile in my opinion.
But the introduction scene to the Batmobile is just epic. So epic. A lot of people are talking about it when they're coming out of the movie. It's just like hearing the engine roar up and stuff and seeing it for the first time. You know.
Yeah.
That's something a lot of people are talking about coming out of this movie. So, yeah, I love the design of the Batmobile too. It looks awesome. And it's like speed based. And I love how the camera was just like anchored on the back wheel and stuff. I thought that was dope. Great shots.
The camera work in this movie was absolutely sensational. Again, it's very, very reminiscent of Joker.
Yeah.
With the way, the cameras are put in weird positions, and especially the camera, especially mirrors. Reflections and stuff, stunning. The amount of times where Batman's like cowl would come into the light and the rain would be falling. It was just it was like Alex Ross artwork came to life. Yeah. Genuinely,
100%. Especially with Penguin, that Alex Ross came to life.
Yeah, totally, man. And we've seen, like stunning artwork. You said again with BVS, Man of Steel, Justice League. We've seen even Wonder Woman. We've seen some great filmography, but this was different level. This not only was the good filmography, like the story was getting cut. The performances were just everybody was clicking at the same time.
Yep.
Everybody knew what film they were in. There was nobody, hamming it up or taking a paycheck. Everybody understood what they were doing. And I think we said that before the movie came out. We were talking about the cast and how they casted so well. It was quite funny as well. Like I was actually thinking about it the other day. They offered the role, they say, of Riddler to Jonah Hill. How different would that movie have felt?
That would have been crazy. I think he was also up for Penguin too, or something like that. And he just wanted more money. They just didn't want to pay him. But the movie would have been radically different if either role he took. I love what Paul Dano did. I don't think anybody else could have been Riddler. Now that looking back on this film, yeah, he really killed it. Yeah.
I think we'll see more of him as well. I don't think that's the end of the Riddler. I think we're going to see, especially sort of 0 hour.
The whole flood thing was totally reminiscent of 0 Year, whatever it's called. Totally reminiscent. And did you see other interviews with the cast? They keep bringing up Core of the Owls. That the cast keeps bringing it up. I've noticed, especially like Paul Dano.
He knows his stuff. I mean, when you were watching Paul Dano, like he knew. Sometimes you see Zoe talking, and she seems cool. You can excuse her; she's so hot. But when you see Paul and Rob and they're talking about these different comics, you're like, oh my god, they know what they're talking about here. And I loved it. Like I say, I loved that Matt Reeves was picking different elements from the Batman lore. It wasn't just the Long Halloween. Like because I was prepared for a sort of long Halloween murder mystery, but it wasn't just that. And it actually felt like the Court of Owls could have, fitted in that movie. I didn't think they were coming.
There's a moment with Peter Sarsgaard's character, Cole. What's his name? It's the district attorney that gets his head blown off. He says, he takes us to his grave. He says it's so much bigger than you could possibly imagine. I don't think he's just talking about Carmine Falcone. You know what I'm saying? He's saying it's much bigger than anything you can imagine. That's not just Carmine Falcone he's talking about. He's talking about Court of the Owls. He's talking about something else that's controlling the city. At least that's what I have to believe.
I think Court of Owls would fit perfectly in this universe.
Yeah.
Although I think Batgirl's making a lot of references to it as well. But again, going back to the multiverse thing, would they allow, are they going to allow both universes to do the same thing? I'd like to think so, but, I'm starting to wonder, because, Batgirl, we know is going to have the older Batman, but it's going to be Firefly as the villain. It's like, it's a villain they wouldn't use in this Strange universe. They might, but it would be somebody that would be an Arkham. It would be an episode of the Arkham series. It wouldn't be somebody that
it wouldn't be a villain. Yeah,
so I'm wondering, the reference to Court of Owl and set leaks for Batgirl, would they be willing? I don't know. Yeah, but the Court of Owls is so big that they can do different elements. The Court of Owls.
It could be a thing that builds up through the next 2 movies and ends with the third movie of the trilogy. It could be something that they just tease for the next couple of movies. It doesn't. That's what I would like to see. They even set up the orphanage. You know what I'm saying? The orphanage that you would see in Court of the Owls book. They kind of already set that up in this movie. So
in the novelization, this is spoilers. That is the old Wayne Manor.
Yeah.
That Paul Daniels burnt to the ground. That's what they set up. That the Wayne family moved to Wayne Tower and gave up the manor to the orphans of Gotham. But we'll see. Like I say, they could do the Court of Owls. I'd like to see them do something different from the League of Shadows or League of Assassins. I think we've done that. I hate to say it, but the Nolan ones, that's been done. That trilogy almost was bookended with the League of Assassins. So I think I'd like to see something different. So Court of Owls would make sense. If you're actually going to give the DCEU different things to play with, you actually could give them that. They give the DCEU the They Shall Go thing, if you wanted to sort of share. But actually, I really believe they're going to do the multiverse and actually trust that people can accept multiple versions.
Yeah, do you think Rob Pattinson's going to make a cameo in that Flash movie? If we're going to do two multiverses here.
But like I say, we spoke about it before.
Yeah.
We had our beliefs before. I don't know if maybe you've changed your mind now, but I think they're definitely letting Matt Reeves do his own thing. They are not going to mix him in with what we've seen in that DC. No offense to DC, I love it, but it's too messy. It's too. I would not like to see that masterpiece go anywhere near. No offense to the DC movies. No offense. I love Peacemaker. I love Suicide Squad. I love Aquaman. I love Wonder Woman. I love Shazam. But there's too much different level drama going on there to allow Matt Reeves' work to get mixed in with it. So at least for the moment, at least for the time being, down the line, we'll see. But for the time being, I think it would be better to keep it away from each other. And as well, that goes for them, the rumoured J.J. Abrams Superman movie that's getting spoke about.
Yeah, it is still just talking. It's still just talking.
If that ever does happen, I wouldn't like to see that come anywhere near. At least, again, at least for the time being.
But like you said, it's like the Matt Reeves Batman universe is their escape hatch. If everything goes fucking south, you know what I'm saying? This is a universe that can expand. Yeah, I mean that's why it's so important to keep it separate now. Yeah,
so that in 2 or 3 years' time, if the current plan doesn't work, but I think it will. I truly believe that if Sony can have a Sony Spider-Man universe plus let Marvel play with Spider-Man, there's no reason why DC can't do it, because DC have got so much more going for it in terms of the characters and where the actual DCEU can go. It's not even scratched the surface yet, the DCEU. I mean, Peacemaker was the first time we've seen the Justice League in about, technically, in 4 or 5 years. So there's so much more to give in that universe, and Matt Reeves, what he's got is got so much room to play with, because again, we haven't even scratched the surface with Batman. What we've seen in Batman movies today are sort of repeated stories, repeated origins, etc. So this will be the first time we actually get to see Batman grow as a character in his prime with his rogues gallery, and potentially, Robins, etc. We'll see if that happens in this universe.
I mean, they totally set up the fact that Batman could easily have a Robin. Like in the beginning of the movie, near the beginning, he sees the kid whose dad was killed, right? And it just gives him those flashbacks to his own childhood. I love that they didn't show the Wayne's murder. By the way, they just mentioned it on TV. But that was really good. People said Andy Serkis, Alfred, did good enough to do in this movie. I kind of agree with that too. But what could rectify that in the next movie is if you get a Robin and have Alfred to train that Robin as Batman's going out on his missions and stuff.
I think that also was to do with Andy Serkis was directing Venom, Let There Be Carnage.
Yeah.
So I don't think he was available.
He was great in all the scenes he was in.
Oh yeah, it was fantastic. I mean, it was a good start for his Alfred, but again, a very different Alfred. He was a lot more like Jeremy Irons, I would imagine. When Affleck's Batman was younger, that's how Irons' Alfred would have acted with Affleck's. But again, very different from very different from Michael Caine or Michael Gough from the Burton and Schumacher movies. But I think that obviously, if you see the scenes he's in, you can tell they were probably shot in the space of 2 weeks. Because it's a lot of the same sort of scene of him coming down to the Batcave. You can tell that's Andy Serkis was obviously really busy shooting Venom and then doing the post on that, so he probably could only shoot so much in that space of time. I actually spotted that very quickly. The way that every time you saw Alfred, he was coming down that lift, it's as if they were doing the same take over and over again, as if they tried to just shoot those two scenes really quickly. But I think that, they could have done more with Alfred, but again, this wasn't Alfred's story. This is about Bruce. This is about it's actually Batman and Gordon's story. When you think about it, and for periods, Catwoman. But it's more Batman and Gordon, showing you the trust and the loyalty, especially the scene where Gordon, takes the hit off Batman.
Oh yeah, he could have held the punches. I did.
I did. Yeah, it's a great scene. I think that. I think the one where they're walking through the car, the garage, and he asks him if he trusts him. He says he does, but I don't even know your name.
Yeah.
I think that's a really good scene. Some great dialogue for Jeffrey Wright and Robert there. Just two great actors. I think just fantastic. And just overall, just going back to Alfred quickly, I think there's a lot of growth there. And like you say, if they do introduce a Dick Grayson type in the sequel, they could do that. Part of me doesn't want them to, because I'm looking at this and saying, I think it should be. I think Catwoman could be. It just depends where the stories go. But I don't think you need a Robin. I don't think you need it. But I would let it be. Of course, I would like to see it. It
would have to be like a 16-year-old Robin. It would have to be like teenager. It can't be like a 12-year-old. I wouldn't buy that in this universe at all. There's no way you can get a kid.
I think it'd be interesting to see if they would try it. I just don't know how it would go down. I would question. I've seen some of the bullshit reviews I've seen for this movie. This movie's sitting on an 85% Rotten Tomatoes, which is very, very high. But the movie is at least, you look at movies about some of the movies above it, but even we've had recent movies like Suicide Squad, Wonder Woman, Peacemaker, all higher. Of course, very different movies, but it's definitely it's on par with these movies. Yeah. I know it's a different context. Dude, it's on par.
Joker has a 68% Rotten Tomatoes. That doesn't even make sense, It
was a hate campaign on that. I get people say Rotten Tomatoes doesn't matter. It does, in the sense that it's a sell movie. Yeah. It's good word of mouth always matters.
Yep. It's what WB is relying on to sell this movie right now. They're not relying on ads. They're relying on people to tell their friends.
And actually, just talking about that, one of the saddest things I've actually seen about this movie is this movie obviously was reported to have $100 million budget, but it's now sort of came out now. It's closer to 185 to 200 because of the pandemic.
Redo scenes.
I think they had to build the complete Gotham set. That's why in the movie, especially near the end, a lot of it feels like it's in the same streets. It's very, very. I don't know if you maybe noticed it yourself, but near the end, it all kind of feels a bit congested because they had to rebuild those actual sets on a soundstage in London.
If COVID didn't happen, it would have been like $100 million budget.
I mean, for what it's done, I mean, it's probably meant the movie maybe needed, $350 to break even.
Which is going to get this weekend, this next weekend.
Maybe now it's up to about $450 to break even. But again, I mean, it won't be. If I think China is this week, I mean, it won't be far off 450 this weekend anyway.
They're talking about 900 million. It's going to have a total by the end of its run, like over 900 million, getting close to that billion mark.
I think it would get $1 billion. I think that maybe just because it is only another 4 weeks, it's got to itself could kill it. But then again, I don't know. I feel like if the word of mouth's good and it does well this week, this movie opened up bigger, than 40 or 50 million higher than Joker opened up.
Yeah. It opened bigger than Aquaman. It opened bigger than Wonder Woman,
Yeah.
I think
so.
BVS was the only thing that did better than it. And we all know what happened with the second weekend with BVS, the 70% drop it had.
BVS was extremely front loaded. I mean, BVS was the movie grossed about 873 million overall, but the opening weekend was supposed to fight.
That's with bad word of mouth.
But that movie was too big to fail in the sense it opened up at nearly 500 million. The first weekend it made almost all of its money.
Yeah.
In the first weekend, this movie, I'd imagine will be like Joker. It's going to have a really good word of mouth. That I've seen so far, you can see for the Thursday through to the Tuesday from the fan screenings through to Sunday, there's been a really strong word of mouth. The movie's hardly dropping. It's got no competition.
Yeah, Uncharted.
For the next, Uncharted now is fading anyway, but it's done really well. But it's got 3 or 4 weeks now. 4 weeks, I think.
Yeah.
Until The Lost City with Channing Tatum comes out, and I don't think that's much competition. So it's 5 weeks until Morbius comes out, and by that point, the movie will be available on HBO Max anyway.
Yeah.
So it won't. By that point, it'll have made its money. So you're telling me, that movie's going to over a month to itself. That's a lot. That's a long time to have to yourself to play with for any movie. That's if you look at Spider-Man, that in the first month was well over 1.3 billion in the first month, and that was a few months ago. Even then, the pandemic was still sort of sizzling. Now we're at a point where genuinely, I don't know about yourself, but especially here in the UK, there's no restrictions anymore. So there's no worries there in terms of people not being able to see the movie. So it's interesting.
I know. I'm really interested to see if it breaks that billion. It's going to be tight. It's going to be real tight. We're going to get really
it doesn't have. Genuinely doesn't have to. I hope it does.
No, it doesn't.
Just for the naysayers, because it's really sad that we still have that very small cult. And as we said before, they're breaking up now. But that that DC hating cult that are just out there delusionally thinking that if the Batman fails, it's going to somehow bring back something else. It's not. If the Batman was to fail, once this Discovery merger takes over, they would just reboot the whole thing anyway. It wouldn't be a case of restoring something. It would be a case of completely start afresh. But this opening weekend, I hate to say it to them if any of them are listening, it's kind of killed any hopes of restoring anything anyway, because now I think the plan that WB have had and they've been pushing for the last 2 years, this is it. You know, off the back of Peacemaker, the Suicide Squad. I know Suicide Squad, you can say the box office, but it was an absolute smash in HBO Max. No. But off the success of the last few movies and what we know is to come with Black Adam, Flash, Aquaman, Batgirl, etc. You know, that this is the plan. You know, it's going to happen. You know, whether you like it or not, this is the plan. And unfortunately, I think there's a lot more people in the general audience than there is these Twitter campaigning bashers.
Yeah. There's not many people that even know there's a hashtag boycott the Batman. You know, there's people that don't even know that. Most people, you know, it's only Twitter. It's only the Twitter world. You know, it's not widespread at all.
We're going to get Batman. You know, we've got Batman in March. Obviously, we've got him here. We're going to get him again twice in the Flash, at least. We only know 2 Batmen. Like we've just said, will Robert Pattinson be in the Flash? It's got to be, you know. Like,
I mean,
if he's not in it,
as his Flash, like even like a little cameo, like.
I mean, like even because that the word of mouth through this movie, and hopefully it continues to grow arms and legs, but I'd be stunned if it didn't. I mean, I'd be stunned if this movie drops.
Yeah, if it had a 70% drop the second week, no fucking way. There's just no way. Yeah.
If it does, obviously, if it does, I'd be, genuinely at that moment, I would be saying,
what's wrong?
Even I couldn't tell you why, because I'm already devastated that the movie's down 85% Rotten Tomatoes. I'm still stunned.
Yeah.
That even though that's an incredibly high score, I'm still stunned that it's that low.
But you read some of the negative reviews, it's like people that don't know anything about Batman that are fucking giving it negative reviews. That's what it feels like, you know.
I mean, the negative reviews for the Batman are crazy, you know, like...
Where's all the jokes? He didn't smile more. that's literally...
But also, when you read that, you understand why, you know, DC have got this sort of, you know, 2 versions sort of idea where, you know, they can give the dark Batman here, and then the DCEU. I'm not saying Michael Keaton's not dark, but you can have that older Michael Keaton, you know, sort of making one-liners because he's very good at that. I really think this plan's going to work out. I really do. And like I say, we're going to get at least 2 Batmen in the Flash with Affleck and Keaton. Then we're going to get Keaton again and Batgirl at the end of the year. So we're going to get a lot of Batman. I think we're going to actually get saturated with Batman. I can't wait for it, to be honest with you. But it's just this is just a really exciting time to be a Batman fan, actually. And I know we're kind of going off tangents on this, but you know, it's just like Robert Pattinson is the Batman. This is going to be our Batman going forward, and I can't wait for it.
Yeah, when I first got out of the movie, I did like a little reaction on my channel, just like just getting out, and I was like, "Fuck all the other DC movies. I just need Batman for the rest of my life right now." You know, I just need 7 Batman films right now. Yeah. I get
your
universe.
I think
that.
I'm still excited for the DCEU. Like for me, like that even though I love this movie and I'm calling it a 10 out of 10, I still want probably like that is. It's going to sound crazy. I'm saying this. Like I still want that to succeed the most, just because I love the DC universe. We're doing this DC podcast because we love the DC characters, not just Batman.
I'm gonna be watching all the movies. Yeah,
but we want the DCEU to succeed as well as the DC, the Batman universe. And I think this is finally DC have understood how to make it work. You know, I think this genuinely it's took a bit of time. There's been a lot of kicks. There's been a lot of knocks. But finally, DC have managed to go, do you know what? Our biggest IP, the one that's going to sell Batman, it's not going to work in the DCEU in the sense of having a young Batman. And again, like I say, it doesn't work. It's never worked in comics. It generally hasn't worked no matter what anybody tells you. It never works in comics. It's like, but you can get away with things. Batman can put mech suits on, except in comics. And you can cut the middle ground out. In live action, I just don't think it works. I've seen it twice now. BVS and Justice League, it doesn't work. So having Batman with his universe here, and then having the DCEU with all those characters, but still having the presence of the older Batman, being the tactical tactician, etc. I think we're genuinely DC have finally found the balance, and I think that I'm hopefully touch wood. Hopefully, I'm not taking things too far. I'm touching wood right now. DC have cracked the code,
really
and 2022 can be they'll be deserved as DC fans, and that goes to everybody. I mean, even the big haters out there, or the pretend haters, because they're not, because the people who say they weren't going to see the Batman have went to see it. At least, these numbers tell you that these people are going to see this stuff, and they're loving it as well, which I'm happy to see. And this isn't like I say, it wasn't a competition to start off with. It was never screw Ben Affleck. Ben Affleck was a very good Batman. Not great. I mean, like, you can't say somebody's great. They never had a solo movie. He was a supporting character in a movie.
Didn't have enough. Yeah.
2 supporting roles and a cameo in that movie isn't enough to call somebody great.
Yeah.
And
especially Zack Snyder's Justice League, I didn't like that version of Batman at all. Like,
actually,
I felt like he was screaming way too much. Like,
and I think he looked. I think he looked. Every inch a human fighting against monsters.
Oh yeah.
I had that big debate with somebody on Twitter the other day there who was telling me how Ben Affleck was the definitive version of Batman, and I was like, yeah, but you need to forget about the suit. The suit is the definitive Batman suit. I'll give you that, but
yeah,
it's good. The actual characterization. We never got enough of it. Outside of the warehouse scene, which was clearly, that was like a separate thing from BVS. That scene was set up in somebody's mind, in Zach's mind, and the cinematographer's mind way before that we're going to have that scene if we get a chance to play with Batman. But in terms of the actual character of Batman, Robert Pattinson, that was every inch what Batman should be, the detective, the way he was answering the riddles, the way the riddles were set up as interesting sort of questions. They weren't, especially, when Coulson's got the bomb around his neck.
Yeah.
And he's answering justice and the bribes, etc. All that stuff, it felt organic.
Yeah. It felt so right, too. Because, like, totally, that's what Riddler would do, right? Like, he would give you a chance with riddles. And I love how Batman's just getting it instantly. It's so good.
Yeah.
He's asking how much it's cost you.
10 grand.
He didn't ask me that.
That's funny, yeah. Joe, it's amazing as well, obviously, Skarsgård being in that role. It was a very minor role, but I quite actually knew.
back again. Hector.
Yeah, Hector Hammond back again, yeah. It's quite funny, that. But obviously, him being there, of course, he's married to Maggie Gyllenhaal, famously for The Dark Knight as well. So he was she's obviously Rachel in The Dark Knight. Mm-hmm. So I think that's quite a cute wee sort of, thing that they two are married. Both of them had sort of supporting minor roles in Batman movies.
He's a good
actor. Both of their deaths felt really good. Yeah, he's a great actor. Yeah. That whole family have got good actors actually as well through it. But Coulson, again, another comic book character, they nailed that very well. You felt sympathy for him, but you also felt like he's a bit of a douchebag, although you didn't see that on screen. You kind of felt like there was a lot more to him than what met the eye. Mm-hmm. But yeah, even his scene when Riddler first takes him in the car, it's terrifying. Even though you know what's coming, you've seen Riddler already attack a few people, it still really works as soon as he gets in the car and the carpet, sort of ornament tool thing, when he starts hitting him over the head of that, it's pretty horrific. Well, I'll ask you, actually, what do you think of the final act, the third act? What do you think of the final sort of riddle?
The final riddle? It's not the one with the rat with wings.
It's not the riddle, it's the final act, the big ending in terms of the flood.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like we got to it a little quicker than I think the film wanted to. You know what I'm saying? I feel like, that 4-hour cut, there's probably some other scenes that led into that act. Because I don't know if you noticed, but, in that moment where you're in the stadium at the end, it's not flooded yet, right? The mayor's on the stage, she gets shot at, and then they drag her away. And then, like, the very next shot, like, there's water about waist high. But you don't see the water get into the building. until like a little later. So like I was a little confused about like how they were flooding so quick right there.
There was some, it's weird because the film, I love the fact it was nearly 3 hours long.
Yeah.
That was allowed to breathe, and
I wanted a little
moments.
more though. If they put another 20 minutes on that movie, I would have been fine. You know what I'm saying? People say it should be shorter. I feel like it should be a little longer. There's some scenes I feel like they did cut out. Earlier in the film, with the guy who's the police like lieutenant or chief with the beard and glasses.
Oh,
remember like they just show
Savage.
him.
Pete Savage or something.
Yeah, something like that. They just show him and he's caught by the Riddler and he's in like the rat maze thing.
Yeah,
they don't see him getting actually caught by the Riddler though. So I feel like there's another scene right there.
We don't actually see the death.
Yeah, we don't see the death.
They set the trap up and it looked quite horrific.
And then they just talk about it. Yeah.
Yeah, and then they cut to obviously it being finished. I feel like that was maybe one of the R-rated scenes that they probably had to cut.
That's what I'm thinking too.
Yeah. I'm thinking that was definitely one of them.
But yeah,
back to
that third act though. Yeah, I mean, I feel like there are some things they cut out just to speed it up a little bit for sure. But yeah, I like it a lot. I like how Batman is like kind of like rushing to take out all these goons. You know, like he's in a hurry. I like that the urgency of Batman fighting there, and there was even some funny moments when he was getting dragged by the cape and stuff. I thought it was pretty funny. And him using the venom was great too. Yeah, man, I liked it. I liked him leading the people out of the water. The first person to grab his hand is the kid from earlier in the movie. They just bring everything full circle.
Synergy.
Yeah.
Yeah, like I mean, like even the stuff with the kid actually doesn't really say a lot in the flick.
Yeah.
But it's just what the symbolising when he's looking at the kid, etc. When he's like, that seeing himself almost in the kid's shoes.
The film is a lot about orphans when you think about it. It's a lot of orphan talk, and there's a lot of kids without parents and stuff. Riddler,
I thought sorry.
No, Riddler's in the same position as Batman was. What were you gonna say? Yeah.
I actually really thought they were going to go down the road of, if they were going to do like Robin, they were maybe going to do it. Maybe that I don't know if you maybe felt it, maybe you didn't, but when the way they kept coming back to that kid, I was like, is that going to turn out to be Dick Grayson? Is this going to be
is this Azrael?
Is this going to be their twist on it? I mean, I think this universe, I think that, I don't know, it's really interesting to see where they go. Like, genuinely, like we can make podcast after podcast and on it, but and maybe we'll actually do a bit more of a breakdown of the movie, like scene by scene, later on. Like this is a bit more mumbo jumbo, but just like giving us reactions, like quick views on it. But it's more like it's hard to explain, like because the thing is, we've got months to talk about this movie, guys. So like, I mean, the next DC movie's end of July, Black Adam. And much like Batman, I know it's skipping subject. Batman's got 4 or 5 weeks to itself. Black Adam's going to have 4 or 5 weeks to itself. DC are really sort of nailing these release dates, I would say.
Well, they got to release them, man. I mean, I know we still got pandemic shit going on, and there's that war in the Ukraine happening, but you got to get these films released. I
think there's no excuses now. Like when movies like Uncharted are turning over 100 million domestic,
and it's not even a good film. Okay, no.
and Spider-Man's nearly 2 billion without China.
Yeah,
there's no excuses. The box office is back to normal. I mean, Batman's open at 135 million, especially off the back of DC not having the
no word of mouth.
The hype behind that.
Batman's technically the first movie of this new franchise. Technically, this new Batman franchise, right? That Spider-Man movie is the 3rd movie of a Batman trilogy. It's the 23rd film or whatever in the MCU. They had a lot going for it. This Batman film,
that movie just fan service start to finish. I know people say, well, then we'll see how the Flash competes to Spider-Man again. There's a lot of there's going to be there's a lot of things going against the Flash before it even comes out.
For sure.
Although I think if Black Adam can deliver something along the lines of Suicide Squad, I'm not for 1 second saying it's going to be like this. But if it can go for the same tones as Suicide Squad and have a good movie and continue the hype, the Flash could have a lot of hype going into it. That could have a, that will have a lot of, that'll have a lot of general audience viewers going, DC's on a roll and giving the Flash a chance, especially with the Keaton, especially with the trailers, etc. I mean, Robert Pattinson's Batman, I mean, it's not, I don't think he would have a role in the movie, as I've said. I think it will be a flash.
If that,
pardon the pun.
If that.
I think it would be a flash of his face, or, I don't really think they would even want to mention it again. But it's a good way to explain how the multiverse works. When you try to explain to audiences, etc., like, well, by the way, that exists there the same way Joker exists.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, man. I mean, with everything going against the Flash too, I mean, this Batman's going to go a long way to help build some goodwill, and I hope the Black Adam does that too. I mean, I feel like people will show up to that movie just to see The Rock. I think it's amazing that now, like, the Batman comes out, and like your reaction is maybe not for me, but it's just, I think, where I'm all with DC, I just want more of the DCU. But a lot of people's reaction was just scrap the DCU, just go for the Batman. You weren't alone, right? You weren't alone. And here, to an extent, it's valid. It's a valid point of view. I mean, if you could, we gotta see what they do, though. You gotta see what they do here. If these next films come out and they're like mediocre, then okay, we can go, but just Batman for a while.
But I mean, we don't want. I don't want that. I mean, like, I feel like Reeves' universe. I still think. I know they had shot the Halloween scene, but Wonder Woman and Superman, but that wasn't shown. Now you can take that whatever way you want to show. Oh yeah,
there was a behind-the-scenes shot on the Batman where people were dressing up, cosplaying as like.
And I think that's a lot of people were speaking of. In this universe, comic books exist, and in the prequel novel, they do say that they do say that superheroes exist, and in comic form. I don't know if that was cut because they just wanted it to be Batman. They just didn't want any confusion by having that.
Yeah,
I could understand why they wouldn't want to show that.
But it's funny because that 60-second, DC trailer is attached to the front of this Batman movie. It's just
they didn't show it.
Yeah,
they didn't show it. I think all 3 times I've saw it.
Every viewing I've seen, they've shown it at the beginning of the film. It's like it's attached to the actual film.
Like I said to you before, when we were speaking about this, that look at the hype on this movie. They want this Batman. They want people to think that this Batman is connected.
Yeah,
I know it sounds bad. They won't,
just by that trailer.
They know. See, now people have saw that trailer, and they know Black Adam's coming. They know Flash is coming. They know Aquaman's coming. That I honestly believe that will drag people to see those movies. Like that people will look at that trailer and go, "I'm going to see Black Adam now." Or Robert Pattinson could be in that. Now we know as geeks that he won't be, but they don't. They don't, and that could create confusion down the line and etc. But that's up to DC to make good stories, to make good, to continue the Batman on. I have so much belief that Matt Reeves going forward will create a trilogy at least
for sure.
Of Batman movies that will be connected and brilliant. I can't wait for the spin-offs.
At least 2 spin-offs that are going to connect.
If what they're saying is true, and we might not get the sequel till maybe 2024,
which isn't that bad. Only 2 years away.
It's 2 years ago. Yeah, I mean that is only 2 years. I mean, after the pandemic, 2 years is nothing. But I'm thinking that maybe in that time you will have at least 2 spin-offs. I still think the Catwoman, the way the movie ends, with her heading off possibly to Bloodhaven, it creates an opportunity for Zoe Kravitz to maybe have a mini-series and maybe develop the Catwoman character just a little bit further, maybe give her a more comics accurate suit.
Yeah, for sure. And she was really close to Catwoman too. She was just missing the cowl. You just need to put that little cat ear cowl on her. She looked like Catwoman. I want to see the evolution of the Batsuit too in these movies. I want to see what the next evolution is.
I'll be interested to see where they go with the suit.
Because those things on his his forearms, those like dart things. I didn't see him use those at all in the movie. So like, I wonder if that was like some cut scenes or something.
I thought in some scenes I thought he was using them as a bat claw, but then the other scenes I actually saw him pull out the bat claw. So I'm like,
yeah,
I don't know, like what is it used for that? I did miss the gauntlets personally. I won't lie, like that is one thing I missed.
Yeah, it was just straps that were looking like the things. But yeah, maybe that's the next evolution. They give him actual gauntlets in the next one.
Do you think they'll go for that grey comic? You see, I can see him heading towards the more Michael Keaton suit, which I hope they don't, but like the more rubbery armour. Like I'm looking at that, I don't see it heading towards like Affleck. I don't see him,
I could
going
see it
out
more
with,
Arkham Knight, honestly. Like even
yeah,
a more
yeah,
armor.
yeah. I think you're right. I think that's probably where they'll go with it. I can't see it going to latex.
I like the armor. I like the way bullets are bouncing off it. I think it's a good idea. Him just walking through that hallway, bullets are just bouncing off it. It's cool.
Honestly, Alex, like I say, I wasn't convinced when I saw the suit, just because I knew straight away it wasn't going to be, after the Affleck thing. Although I'm still saying that Affleck, he doesn't deserve the praise he gets. Put it that way. Maybe he will after the Flash. From what I've heard, he's got some emotional scenes in that, and maybe as he passes the cowl almost to Keaton in a weird way, passing it back to Keaton. Like maybe we'll have a lot of emotion, and that maybe makes sellers on Affleck completely. But I think that I maybe wanted a suit that looked like that. I like the idea of the comics accurate suit, but at the same time, it's not practical. You've seen Keaton. It was like you seen Affleck. He couldn't. It was like the big suit was wearing him, and although he looked good in the stills and the pictures, he couldn't. Outside of that warehouse scene, he couldn't move. In the suit, really, there wasn't a lot of movement. Even though people try and rewrite history and tell you there is, there wasn't a lot of movement. There was a lot of static stuff. If you watch Justice League, there was a lot of slow motion stuff, especially he's fighting parademons. If you go and watch the tunnel fight in Zack Snyder's Justice League, very stiff Tin Man movements.
I wasn't a big fan of the way his suit looked in Justice League at all. I like the BVS though. I like the gray body and stuff. I think that's
it looked good in BVS, but again, like I say, outside of the warehouse scene, it didn't really move as well as you would think it would. But the Pattinson suit, it's very low center of gravity. The legs are very free to move. There's like a lot of feet action and stuff, a lot of quick movements. It was I was really concerned about the cowl with the neck. I didn't like that at first, but it made so much sense because he had the protection on his neck, but also he could move his head around. It wasn't like famously Michael Keaton was having to like turn round. And also like another thing we've not mentioned is Pattinson's eyes. Oh my god! Like the movement on his eyes was incredible.
So much acting. Acting.
He didn't have to open his mouth. His Batman voice was solid. He done well with the Batman voice. They almost did the Michael Keaton-esque where he was just low on it.
Yeah, to that moment where he finds out the truth about his parents through the Riddler video, like it just all the expressions just through his eyes. So good.
That was another quick. I think there was more to that as well.
Yeah.
That was quite
How
sharp.
about that Martha thing? Martha is like she was a mental patient at Arkham. Like she had mental problems. Like I don't know about you, but I instantly thought of the Joker Martha from Flashpoint. Like I instantly thought that. I was like, what?
I think that is that Arkham Asylum. Is that mentioned in that, or is that?
What? Like
there's definitely a comic that's mentioned,
or something like that.
I'm sure that's in Grant Morrison's Arkham Asylum. I'm sure that is. It's definitely been done before, but it's never been done in live action or animation. But I've definitely seen that before. Yeah, I should know better.
The only time I can remember is Flashpoint, like actually seeing her go crazy. But like that's the thing in the comics, though. Like it's like the Waynes aren't perfect. That's something I love about this movie. That they go into. At least not every comic, does this, but there's some good ones. The Waynes have something dirty to hide.
It was done in Joker as well.
Yeah.
I actually thought maybe they were going to try and lean into Joker a bit. I felt there was room there for them to potentially. Obviously, it was different actors playing Thomas and Martha Wayne, but
yeah,
I feel like there was that opportunity, maybe at the script writing phase or the screenwriting bit, where they could have done that, or they could have tied this into Joker.
Because Thomas Wayne in this Batman movie is also running for mayor, just like the Thomas Wayne in the Joker movie. It's like, there's definitely some crossover here, it feels.
But I think in the end, they've I think it was the right thing to do to allow Joker to be its own thing, let that remain its own thing. If they ever decide to do a sequel, I hope they don't, but if they do decide to, they can. But also allow Matt Reeves, make sure Matt Reeves has no. I can totally see why they've said to Matt Reeves, look, you can do what you like in this world. Like, you don't have any restrictions. It makes sense. Although Joaquin Phoenix would have easily fit into this universe, no problems at all.
Yeah.
But
especially the tone. Yeah.
I think getting to see another take on Joker is always exciting. Like who doesn't want to see the Joker? Famously, Batman Begins ended with Batman getting the Joker card. And I remember even back then, the screams and cheers in the theatre when Batman turns the card around. And it was, wasn't as much focal to the Joker in this, but certainly when you hear him mention clown and then the face turn around, there was shock and horror in my theatre, which is always good to see in a DC movie. Something like that happening. So I'm looking forward to definitely seeing what Matt Reeves can do in the future. And as much as I've been critical of the third act, I feel like obviously it was a bit ambitious from Matt Reeves with the 0 hour type flood. I firmly believe that Matt Reeves will somehow make that flood become bigger in the sequel. I feel like that flood will tie into a future villain's origin.
Like a Killer Croc, or I don't know.
Well,
some
I'm thinking Victor Fries maybe it could play into how
lab.
Destroyed his lab and maybe makes him fall into the vat of chemicals that I feel like they could turn a contentious plot point into a major plot element of the next movie.
I hope so. I hope the next movie starts and like the city's still flooded. Like, I'm saying, they're still trying to figure out how to fix it. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, totally, man. Totally. Yeah, I think that it was. Very ambitious. That alone could have been the main part of the movie. The movie could have built. I know it essentially was building up to that, but I felt like this movie had about 3 or 4 endings in it.
Yeah,
it could have stopped at any moment. But I felt like, again, very reminiscent of The Dark Knight. The Dark Knight could have ended at any moment. It just kept going and kept going and kept going. And also, this movie and The Dark Knight, I don't think there's much between them. I genuinely think in any given day, you could say one's better than the other. As a Batman fan, I would say this movie's better in the sense that it is more Batman. But again, I think there's something about the Joker that just captures the imagination.
If it's any other actor but Heath Ledger in that role, I think it's not as good too. Like that Dark Knight movie is like Ledger's movie, and just watching that just to see his performance is better than most movies entirely. But
it's created that benchmark, and I think that this movie, all credit to Matt Reeves, he goes there, he tries to go there. He does his best. He doesn't shy away, he doesn't try and do something completely different and try and ham it up a bit. He goes for the Dark Knight. He tries to match that level. And, I think maybe he just slightly fell short, just slightly.
But that should be the aspiration going into any of these movies.
And going forward, he's set the level now, Matt Reeves. I worry for the sequel because in the sense that when you see...
top it.
You just have to see Wonder Woman. The first Wonder Woman movie was incredible. That anything short of masterpiece in the sequel was never really going to fulfill your expectations. And although Wonder Woman 1984 I think gets overhated on,
but it is wildly different from the first movie. Like tonally, it is wildly different. And I don't see that happening with Batman. I don't think they're going to change the tone of Batman ever. Like it's going to be like this forever. At
Yeah,
least
well,
for the next
I
10
think
years.
that
Yeah.
I think that the most important thing, I think what's happened is with the Batman is if this merger thing, which I hate talking about because I feel like it's just an embarrassing thing to talk
Nothing's
about.
going to happen.
I know nothing's going to happen.
They think
but,
everyone's
like,
going to get fired. They're going to rebuild Warner Brothers from scratch. Like, they're fucking crazy. Like, you know what I'm saying?
There's no way, like they're going to come in. Walter Hamada has clearly been plotting this
He's got a
for
good
the
track
last
record.
2 or 3 years. Like they are not going to come in and say to Walter Hamada, by the way, see what you've planned out here. And this includes the DCEU, because it's clear after Suicide Squad and Peacemaker that the DCEU finally has a plan.
Yeah.
And
Hamada's track record with actually like budgets and making money is really good. So it's not like there's no reason why they would get rid of him. Yeah.
Like you say, unless the movies were to flop. But again, I mean, he's already had $1 billion with Aquaman, $1 billion with Joker. And then, I mean, we'll see what this movie does, but this movie is looking incredibly good.
There's going to be a lot of profit with this movie.
Yeah. So, like, if they were to get rid of Hamada, good luck trying to find a replacement who could come in,
right?
Control. I mean, it's just crazy even thinking about it. See, like, the more you talk about that type of thing, like, it's just crazy to even. It's like
the amount of replacements they would have to get for the amount of people they would have to fire. Like the amount of people they think are going to get fired. A lot of these crazy fans out here that think Discovery's going to come in and just clean house. Like, the process it would take to rehire everybody and find people that can fill these
I'm
roles.
pretty sure, and just
that alone,
because the merger will be coming in the next few weeks, maybe a couple of months. I will say this, that the Batman, in terms of the Discovery in time could change things, and I think Hamada might eventually leave DC. I don't know, move to a different. I don't know. Right? Maybe he will, but eventually. But that'll be in a long time. This
certainly
is only
not going to be
beginning.
the first year. It's probably going to be like year 5 or 6 or something like that.
Oh, it just depends. I mean, if this multiverse concept works, and they manage to have a Justice League universe running that's appealing to the mass audiences, but also have this Batman universe running at the same time. I mean, I need to go back to it. I'll say this on mic right now. Jim Lee at DC Fandom, when he showed Crisis on Infinite Earths, and it had Keaton, it had Pattinson, it had Suicide Squad, it had Blue Beetle, it had Batgirl, it had Flash, and his new suit. I don't know, man. We'll see. I'm not saying it's imminent, but I'm just saying that they know what they're doing. Like, there's an end game to this. That they have a plan. Things will change. Things go along. New characters will get discovered. Black Adam will come out. Hopefully, it's a smash. And then all of a sudden, more emphasis might go on Hawkman or Doctor Fate or Atom Smasher. I think God, for all we know, Cyclone could come out and become the breakout character, and they could have a Cyclone series. Like, anything can happen, but I still think that the main, that wasn't a mistake from Jim Lee when they muted him when he was talking. It was obviously played for a joke, but that wasn't, they have an idea in their mind for a sort of end game type scenario.
Oh yeah.
Which, I mean, as I've said, I don't want the Batman messing with the DCU, but maybe in years down the line in a sort of end game scenario, I wouldn't mind it in that sense. Because that sort of situation wouldn't affect the Batman movies, because it is sort of, is what it is. But I'm just still excited.
I'm excited for the future.
I think this is another major tip. We were excited when the podcast first started. Alex, we were talking. We wanted to be positive. And, when we're saying we want to be positive, we're just hoping DC make us positive. They give us positive things. And the Suicide Squad was a massive, massive success in sense of positivity. Peacemaker, again, is just... We'll talk about that more soon, but that just blew the roof off it. All of a sudden, since Peacemaker came out, people were going, "Oh, when's Justice League getting back together?" All of a sudden after that, where can Peacemaker go next? Is it going to be Deathstroke? Is it going to be Bloodsport coming back to help Waller fight off the sort of Peacemaker team? And now the Batman comes out, and all of a sudden people are going, in fact, even though we're all hyped for Peacemaker, scrap it. Let's do this. That just shows you, that DC are bringing out good products and good products. I mean, I'm not every movie is going to be $1 billion movie. You know, like it's as simple as that. People need to accept that. You know, like it's not about that. It's about bringing out good products, and that's when I go back to movies like Shazam, Birds of Prey.
Mm.
People are very, you know, Birds of Prey is a divisive movie amongst the fandom, the DC fandom. But what I will say is the movie was a smash with critics, and yeah, not every movie, you know, will be a $1 billion movie. But if you keep making good movies, if you keep putting good products out and giving the producers and the directors and the actors the creative freedom, you will get hits. You know, it'll take time. And yeah, you'll get the odd Birds of Prey that maybe won't be, you know, universally loved. And you'll get Shazam, which is, you know, did really well profit-wise. You know, it was a movie that cost about $70 million and brought in nearly $400 million, but, you know, wasn't, you know, was an unknown character.
Yeah.
You know, it's now had a lot of exposure for the streaming and Blu-ray sales, and, you know, the sequel should double what the first movie made, you'd imagine.
Yeah. Hopefully.
But, you know, that's what I'm saying. If they keep doing what they're doing, if they keep giving these directors like Matt Reeves freedom, yeah, there won't always be massive smashes, but you will get more wins than L's, you know.
Oh, yeah.
And I truly, you know, this is the really exciting time to be a DC fan, and we'll talk more. We'll see how next week goes. We'll talk again next week about the box office, but
we'll go
the big
more
test
scene by scene with the Batman movie.
Yeah,
for
of
sure.
course. I mean, we've got a few months to go to talk about it. DC's got to take a bit of a rest, obviously, after this, to allow. Obviously, the next month we've got the next Warner Brothers projects, the Harry Potter, Fantastic Beasts, and then we've got a few Marvel movies coming out. Doctor Strange, which again, people use Doctor Strange to beat down the Flash, but I think will actually be a benefit to the Flash.
Yeah.
As it will explain the multiverse to the general audience. So when the Flash does it, it's not going to be a shock, you know? Like, I mean, that's the beauty. People say that the Flash is getting there too slow, ironically. But it's not.
Barry's always late.
Barry's always late, but I mean, it's not about, you know, what we know is going to be in the Flash. It's not going to be variants. It's going to be like genuine, like, DC's biggest weakness is going to become their biggest strength, and hopefully, like we're saying tonight, Robert Pattinson appears in it, because that would be incredible. The future's looking so bright, and we've actually picked, Touchwood, the best time to do this podcast because we are eating so good, mate.
Oh, yeah. It's the best time to be a DC fan. We got a great Batman movie. Oh, so good. Like, this is a movie I'm going to be rewatching like 100 times, probably. It's like that good for me. Yeah, that's it for now. Have a good one, everybody. We'll see you in the next one.